Hey, it's MK, and I am back with another Baby Got Scraps. And today I decided I was going to work on a pocket page for you guys today. This is the continuation page for the fishing layout that I did about my daughter. Now, these are all of my kids fishing in South Fork, which is a lake just south of where we live. I decided to use Thicker's paperwork alpha letters, or chipboard letters, I think is what they are, as well as some Simple Stories wood grain alphas to make my title. I also pulled off a few definition words and things like that. These are just some random scraps that I had left over. I actually found all these scrap embellishments in with some of my scrap paper. So I thought it would be great to use them up since, I didn't know I had them. I also have, a fly fishing pole. I'm still trying to use this cut file, you guys, still. I have this leftover cut wood grain, like woven piece. The feathers I plan on fussy cutting out. Actually, I was going to plan on fussy cutting them all out because I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to use that paper. I also have this kind of, I think it's a Amy Tan Bold and Beautiful paper. I have some corrugated paper, but I'm going to have to tell you guys, I don't end up using it. It gets set off to the side, and that's that. Yeah. This is a cardstock. It's a double-sided cardstock just from a paper pad that I had. I think it was from Park Lane. I can't remember. This wood grain here was also from a paper pad too, but I don't remember the name of that one either. And then this wood grain is actually double-sided, but it's the same print, only in a gray tone and a brown tone. And it was from Close to My Heart from a couple years ago. So I actually have quite a few of that paper left, by the way. But I do plan on using this wood grain as my background for all of my photos. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that up so I can put all my photos down on it because it's just such a boring part. And then I plan on matting this Polaroid panoramic photo that I took of just the lake. This is when we first got there before everybody started fishing and the motorboats started coming in, all that stuff. So we usually like to get there super uber early in the morning. So that way the motorboats aren't scaring the fish. But then again, the motorboats do kind of sort of scare the fish closer towards the shore. So it's a half a dozen of one and a dozen of the other, or 6 of the other, because of the fact that sometimes the motorboats scare them out deeper into the ocean, where they go deeper, and some of them come closer in. So I guess it just depends on the day and how the fish feel. I have no idea, to be honest. So I'm going to work on my Polaroid photo first because I thought that would be the easiest thing. I already had an idea for my 2 blank spaces. One of the blank spaces, the 4x6 blank space, is actually going to have a 4x6 on one side, but it's blank on the other side. And then the last pocket down on the bottom, right now it's down on the bottom left, it's 2 4x3s, which is kind of an unusual layout for a pocket page. But this one, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was actually part of the Simple Stories line that when Project Life and Simple Stories kind of hooked up together, they had unique page protectors, and I really wished I would have gotten a little bit more of them, but I was kind of happy with the ones that I got and was kind of sort of thinking I don't want to get too familiar with a pocket page and then just continue to use that throughout all of my albums, because in 1 year that you could tell that that's what happened. I'm just saying, I'm speaking from experience. All right. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about really quickly, because I already missed it, because I do have this recording super uber fast forward, or it would have been like 35 minutes long. It took me 2 hours and 20 minutes to put this layout together, but it is a front and back pocket page. Plus I have a house full of family. So it's kind of not all said and done, but it's 2 hours and 20 minutes of recording time. And some of that is me walking away and having to go take care of family business. And I just left the camera running because I knew I would be right back. But what I wanted to tell you guys before I moved into my marker of the alphas is that the the 4x12 pocket up at the top is actually longer. It's about 3/8 of an inch longer than 12 inches because of the seams that are in, to create the 4x6 pockets. And so I just took my green paper or aqua paper and put it down, on the page protector, and I used the page protector as the guide of how big or how wide it needed to be. And then I put it in the pocket to make sure I didn't need to trim it up any. Okay. So I just wanted to say that really quickly, in case you didn't see what I did, because, it's going so fast, you might have missed it. And then there are elements that are going to be outside of the pocket that I am going to glue down onto. Now, the trick to gluing the elements on the outside of the pocket is, one, don't put it on a bend. Like when you flip the pocket over from, looking from one side to the other side, the front to the back, if you put it in the bend in the middle, it's more likely going to pop off if you put it on the bend that goes horizontal, if that makes any sense. So if you are going to give it a go, and try to put something on the outside of your pockets, use a glue that you trust, for one. ATG works just fine on lighter embellishments, but on the heavier embellishments, like these wood pieces, I use my liquid glue. And before I go and stick it in my album, I let it sit and dry overnight and make sure that the bondage has really had a time to cure between the plastic and the wood, using the glue. And then, of course, always, if, you don't have, any kind of that glue around, or you still don't want, you're still not too sure about it, E6000 is a miracle worker. It sticks to anything, you guys. And the problem is dot, not a lot, okay? Especially on a glossy surface, because that stuff looks horrible if you let it seep over. It doesn't wipe up nice and neat like this Nuvo Deluxe does. I'm just saying. So anyways, I thought that I would throw that out there because I have had a lot of questions about putting things on the outside of my pockets. Well, for me, that helps the creativity, because if I'm just stuck with a teeny tiny little 4x6, I get a little, I don't want to use the word anxious, but that's how I feel. I kind of get like closed in, boxed in, like, oh my gosh, no, I don't know what to do on just a tiny little 4x6 little surface area. I don't know. But when it comes to, the freedom of being able to do what I want on my layouts, that's when it just is like, that's awesome. I have this huge dead space. However, it's going to go across, like this one right here. This dead space goes across both of my photos. Now, could I have actually taken my photos out and put this across both of them and then chopped it in half? Absolutely. I think it would have looked just as good as if I was to have put this on the outside of the pocket, which I ended up doing because of all the other elements I wanted to add. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking my favoriteest twine in the whole wide world, and I'm wrapping my flies. So the fishing pole that I have is actually a fly pole, and it came with 3 flies, which I thought was adorable. I can't say that about my own stuff, you guys. It's, anyways. And what I did was I took my twine and I put a string of I took a string of thread and followed the line that already is existing on the fly. And then I wrapped around like 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how long that pre-existing image went. And I just wrapped my thread around it, so that way it kind of looked like I tied my fly. Is just what I was going for, you guys. And then I put 2 flies on one side, and I thought it would be kind of cool, because when we go on fishing trips like this, we find all sorts of things. We find people's hooks that got caught and then they just left them, and then over time they fell out of where they were caught. Just by the wind and things like that, people goofing off with them, stuff like that. It's no fault to anybody's, if they can't find their hook that got stuck in a bush, and they just cut the string and let it go. Eventually, the wind works its way out and lets it drop down to the ground, or a critter gets moves the bush just right to where it falls out, things like that. And my kids find flies all the time because when you fly fish, you have to let out a ton of line. And then you sit there and you do this fancy little swooshy little thing with the fly fishing pole and whatnot. And sometimes you go too far and that next swish, you're stuck in a bush. And the best thing to do is just chop the line off and start fresh. Honestly, that's the way that it works. So anyways, that's where my kids always find these flies because it's like, oh, cool, and the fly is out here, so it must be one that somebody catches fish on. So they're always doing it. So I thought that was a good representation of having those loose flies on string, or the line, be put on there. So here was another example where I took the elements and I glued them to the 3 cards and then I chopped them all up. But then I'm going to put my fishing pole and some other elements on the outside of the layout because my fishing pole for one is just too tall. It wouldn't have worked at all being chopped in half. No way. But yes, I do end up putting it on the outside, but everything else on the inside, just because it was such a huge pocket. I kind of wanted to give it a try, even though the other ones on the other side, I definitely could have done that with as well. But I think that the other ones on the other side are going to help with my elements when it comes to flipping the page back and forth. Now, this page is already in my album. It's been flipped and flapped and moved around quite a bit and everything. I'm pretty confident that it will be okay. Now, I am okay with doing this because of the fact that when I do elements like this, I am very aware that the page on this side is going to be a 12 by 12. Now, if this was going to be next to another pocket page, I would not put anything on the outside because that pocket has lips where your pictures go, and it could catch on what is on the outside of your pocket page. So yes, when it comes to a pocket next to a pocket, or a pocket page next to a pocket page, I will not put elements on the outside of each other to get caught. I only do this when they are next to another 12 by 12, so that way it has a smooth surface and it won't be bothered, but it will be nice and snug and protected by another page protector. Okay. I'm kind of clarifying this because I've had a lot of comments about whether or not I'm worried about this is falling apart or anything like that. And I've done this for a couple years now, and I'm not worried about it at all. Not one bit. I did start off with a bunch of foam first before I moved to these harder elements. Just to test the waters. But hey, I talked through the whole thing. I did give my title a little bit of color by with some alcohol markers. I just took my broad tip of it and brush stroked them on there just real quick and fast. Didn't have any thought process to it whatsoever. I just wanted to fill it in, but not completely. Like I didn't want it to be perfect. Kind of like to match my daughter's, even though hers was in pink. I wanted this one because it's more about the boys, even though she is in one of the photos. I kind of wanted to make this a little bit more on the boy side. Now, why the feathers? I have no idea. I just put them on there. I honestly think that some of the flies actually do look like their feathers or their wings. So it did kind of sort of, have a representation there, but that's not the reason. I just liked the colors of all these feathers and they matched the papers really well. So honestly, that's the only reason I have for the feathers. Anyways, be sure to check out everyone else that is playing along with Baby Got Scraps. Now, I do have to say really quickly, because I ran out of time, that Baby Got Scraps was started by a YouTuber here. Her name is Kristen Carlson. She started it last year, and I just was so thrilled that I look forward to doing this every year, even though this is only the second year for us to do this. Come December, I am ready to tackle my scraps and just create with only using what I created for that entire year. So when I did this last year, I had a blast going through all my scraps, creating 30 layouts or projects, because they weren't all layouts when I first started, but just doing all of those. And then at the end of 30 days, all my scraps left and I got to start with all brand new product, which was very exciting to me because it was like, even though the product was old, it was all still very, very brand new to me because it never had been cut into it, but it was probably maybe 2 or 3 years old. But still, I don't know. And I'm looking forward to that very much this year as well. So anyways, again, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will check y'all later. Bye.